Watch what's approaching, the supreme moment. Reality striking closer than it seems, don't it? Go ahead, it's for the taking if you want it. If not, the dream dies and you'll be forever haunted. Then confront it.
What's good? So the new stages for the Infinite Dragon Ball History event is out now, and I wanted to go through both stages for Goku's family and Vegeta's family. I decided to run the Transformation Boost team with the Transforming Cooler as leaders because honestly this team is very, very balanced, and each unit does have particular benefits as to, bringing them on, and honestly they work out in really like a good cohesion type deal. And a simple breakdown, Transforming Cooler obviously is very good because this guy does, after transformation, has the ability for additional attacks that become a super attack. Along with that, you get a guaranteed crit against Pure Saiyans or Hybrid Saiyans, so that is very effective in this type of setting. The Agility LR Super Saiyan Gohan, as well as the Transforming TEQ Trunks, both of those are very good, obviously, because of the ability to stack defense throughout the course of the battle and pretty much eliminates a lot of risk. Now, obviously, in the beginning, you are going to be taking some hefty damage, but once things build up and the team starts warming up, they become very, very good. So, along with that, you have the Super Saiyan Gogeta unit, obviously very good because of guaranteed crits after the transformation, high chance of evading attacks as well. So, definitely very beneficial to include that unit as well. Prior to the transformation, you do effectively attack against all types, so very beneficial in that regard. Also, the Transforming Goku Black is definitely a little bit of a weird one, I guess. I love running this unit because of the defensive abilities to stack up through the super attack, but at the same time I have like certain units that I want on certain rotations, the first rotation and the second rotation. So for the most part, Goku Black ends up being a floater type unit, and honestly, being a floater, he doesn't stack up defense as quickly as I would prefer, but you do get that buff toward defense out of it, so I figured it'd be worthwhile to include him on it. Janemba obviously also extremely good. The chance to evade attacks as well as effectively effectively defend against all types, and attack actually going up based on attacks received. So very, very phenomenal unit. This is like honestly overkill at this point, as how many times this has actually been said, but it really doesn't undervalue the fact that the unit is very good. So that's pretty much the entire team build in a nutshell. Now, there are certain enemies that you face throughout this battle that I've noticed is a little bit of an issue, so I will comment throughout the battle on situations that I found that are a little bit tricky, but for the most part, depending on the type of team you bring, you don't really struggle too much. And again, there are certain units on the team that only have one dupe, and they're not maxed out by any means, so it is an efficient enough team to where you don't necessarily need to have a 100% potential team to be able to clear it, obviously. So that's one of the takeaways with that is this team is not yet at 100% potential, but they're still pretty amazing. So it just tells you combining certain units on a certain category with a certain build, they become very balanced both in an offensive and defensive standpoint. So I love running this team. Along with movie bosses, the Conquest of Terra team and Transformation Boost combination is very good. So I love it a lot. So one of the notes I did want to make is the TEQ Goku that you see right here. This guy can be a little bit tricky because he seems like he supers a little bit more than some of the other enemies, and I think he also does have the ability to evade attacks. I thought I noticed him evading an attack when I was going through some of the runs testing out certain teams and whatnot, so that is one thing that I noticed. Now, of course, I wanted to go ahead and transform both of the cooler units because it's just much more valuable to go ahead and get that transformation to get the potential additional attacks as well as the guaranteed crits against Pure Saiyans and Hybrid Saiyans over the transformation boost, category allies boost toward attack and defense along with the key boost, I believe. So there's just so much more value on doing that. Plus, this guy can stack the attack stats as well. So every time you perform a super attack with the cooler unit, you're able to raise attack levels. So throughout the course of battle, his attack stats will continue to climb. Along with that, you get guaranteed crits against pure Saiyans or hybrid Saiyans. On top of that, you get built-in additionals for a chance for super attack, and yeah, you can kind of understand why this guy's so good on this type of setting. So, that's pretty much the way I look at it. Janemba, it's a good enough link with the cooler unit where I maintain the same links. It's more or less like when I was running through this particular run, I needed some sort of safety net, I guess, to say the least, when Cooler could potentially take a lot of damage. I would place Janemba there knowing that he can effectively guard against all types as well as a chance to evade attacks. So, if there's a situation like where Cooler's in a type disadvantage setting, which he will be, it's obviously good to put Janemba where a lot of the incoming attacks are coming. On top of that, the other rotation, I wanted to maintain the Transforming Trunks and the Agility LR Super Saiyan Gohan unit on the same rotation, so both of those units were able to stack up that defense levels as much as possible. TEQ Trunks obviously does increase his attacks as well based on every super attack, and we're waiting on Goku Black to get that transformation in as well because he does have built-in crits after the transformation, so that is definitely beneficial to have as well. Alright, so Gogeta did also transform, and this is where things get a little bit easier because this guy obviously is very, very good as well. Again, he does have the ability to get the guaranteed crits, also a high chance to evade enemy attacks, so, not necessarily worried here. I think, with the amount of HP levels we have here, I'm like, is it worth taking the risk here or not? And obviously Janemba doesn't have enough to get that super attack, and I need as many supers performed as possible, but I was like, we don't have enough here, so what do we do? I was like, I'm not sure if Cooler has enough built-in, attacks coming up to where he'll be able to finish off the enemy, but we're going to go ahead and bank on Janemba dodging well as Gogeta Blue dodging the enemy attacks. So that's pretty much one of the gambles I took on this run. Sometimes you have to, but a lot of it does come down to, item conservation because you did realize, and you will realize in a couple of settings, you will have enemies that lock your character positions. So it's kind of like wasteful to use up an item just for that, kind of want to reserve it to situations you really need it for. Plus, like the types of items I brought really doesn't. Like Senzu Beans and the Dende item, right? They're very good because they fully heal and remove any status effects. However, I brought in Android 8 and the Snake Princess because along with HP recoveries based on percentages, you also get a defensive bust or damage reduction. So that's definitely beneficial to have in that setting. So of course, in my setting, you're kind of forced into whatever position they lock you into. So that's definitely one thing to keep in mind. Again, I made a mistake here. Before I go into the next topic, I made a mistake here because I should have had Cooler perform the Dokkan mode attack, but I wanted to have Janemba receive the attack in order to get that increase toward his attack stats. So I wasn't really thinking at the time. That's kind of like, oh, I was like, oh fuck, I didn't realize the Dokkan mode was filled up. So that's one of those small minor mistakes. It didn't really cost me anything, but at the same time, it definitely would have annihilated pretty much a lot of Gohan's HP, I think. But it's okay. I mean, the only issue here on this rotation, again, is transforming Goku Black. Once he transforms, the links are a little bit better, especially with the other Super Saiyan units, and you're looking at maybe like one key needed to get the 12 key super attack. In this case, you do still have to acquire a few orbs in order to get the 12 key super. So in a lot of cases, you're not able to meet that criteria. So once he transforms, it's not really an issue. It's just up until that point, it's a minor issue as well. So I know I'm making like small observations here and there on, the different scenarios that I ran into on this run, but I try to provide like more color behind, what's happening, how the team works overall and stuff like that. So hopefully it's some beneficial value to you guys. I don't know what teams you necessarily ran. I know one of the requirements on fulfilling the missions on the new stages is bringing like a certain amount of, I think, Goku's family or Vegeta's family or Kamehameha type units. There are missions based on that where you do get a certain amount of Dragon Stones. But when I was first running through this, it's just the most efficient and smoothest team for me at this point was this setup. So that's kind of why I went with it. it's always good to have defensive buffers. I mean, the ones that stack up defense, it's just going to make life so much damn easier later on in the battles where you're literally taking double digits in damage from a super attack, and honestly, like, it does make a huge difference. So in this case, as you can see, we've got both of the cooler units on the rotation, and it's against an agility type unit, so of course you had to really give it the first slot to Janemba. You got a good amount of attacks coming there. Of course, the final position where the other cooler unit is, you do have 3 attacks coming there, but there's not really much you can do at that point, so it's a matter of maximizing the amount of damage you can apply and writing things out, whether it's simply trying to tank it or using items to reduce some of that damage taken. But outside of that, I mean, it's pretty straightforward stuff. Yeah, Cooler is definitely the MVP on this run. He applied so much in damage, especially the friend lead at, I think this one was at 100% potential, so obviously very, very, very efficient to run this guy on this setting. I mean, we've got like 2 HP bars left, so a little bit less than 2 HP bars, so should be able to finish up. And then finally, Goku Black transforms, so we get that Super Saiyan Link going on, and you know, the passive does upgrade as well, so things are definitely a lot nicer. As you can see, like he links up well with a lot of the other units, so it's not even an issue anymore to get that 12 Gi Super. So that's one of the benefits of bringing this guy. At this point, he did stack a decent amount of defense, not quite to the levels of Trunks or Gohan, but good enough, I think, in my opinion. It's better having this guy, in my opinion, than having a supporting floater, which could be some value. I mean, there could definitely be some beneficial value with that, but for me, when I was building a team, I was like, let's just go ahead and include another defensive unit just in case, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the way I looked at it. You are limited to 2 items that you can bring on, so not that, you know, you can... I mean, with 2 items is more than enough. If you build the right teams and bring the right items, it's not really that much of a struggle. At the same time, why not make life easier if you can, in addition to that? That's basically my philosophy with it. Okay, so we're on to the Pan unit. So I think after this is the last one against the Goku Jr. unit. It's kind of funny how it ended with that, because yeah, I ran through the list of enemies when I was, you know, right before starting the run, but you kind of tend to forget the order because you haven't, you know, this literally just came out, so it does take some time, like, remembering all the different enemies. But I'm glad they did add the new stages, though. It definitely does. Infinite Dragon Ball History is a very nice testing ground. It's much better, in my opinion, than Boss Rush, because, you know, the enemies are definitely a lot tougher. The only issue I have with this setting is, not that I necessarily want this to change, but I'll go ahead and mention it anyway. The fact that there's only 1 single enemy per stage makes it difficult to test out units that have, you know, enhancements or passive skill sets where it's based on the, you know, having more than two or more enemies, basically. So in those settings, you can't really see the advantages or testing, you know, proper testing with those types of units. But outside of that, I think it's a very good format. I love, you know, testing out units on this event in particular. I think it makes it a lot of fun, to be honest with you. Again, bottom line is a hell of a lot better than Boss Rush, but that's just me. Okay, so again, we're depleting a lot of HP, defending very well. I mean, taking very little in damage at this point. Plus, it's an intelligence type, so, you know, not too bad here, honestly. I mean, we've got a lot of good units that can defend decent enough, and offensive output's very good also. I think at the end of the day, this team is very fun to run. So I try to come up with every excuse I can to run this team. Honestly, that's what it feels like. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, movie bosses for the longest time was one of my favorite categories, and it still is. I think the other one outside of this setup right here is Future Saga. Like, Future Saga became pretty amazing after, you know, TEQ Transforming Trunks and Future Gohan came out not too long ago. Those units made that category very, very good, and it used to be a pretty bad one, and one of the worst actually, but it became a lot better because of those, so things can change easily. But yeah, this Conquest of Terror Transformation Boost setup is definitely very fun to run. So we finished up the Goku Jr., and that's pretty much it right here for the stage for Goku's family. again, this is the particular team I ran. Obviously, you can run all sorts of variations, but hopefully enjoyed this format. Hopefully enjoyed this team. Let me know. But as always, I do appreciate you guys watching, and I'll certainly catch you guys later because I have a lot more content coming. All right, peace out.